Project Nimbus Complete Edition is a high-flying and fast-action mecha game that released September 26th of 2017. It's set in a post-apocalyptic near future where dozens of battle-frame mech suits take to the air to battle out a Cold War tension to potentially world-ending battle over 26 story missions with gameplay heavily inspired by not only giant robot classics but the Ace Combat Flight series. This was initially a Kickstarter project that was successfully funded back in 2014. Not to be confused with the Project Nimbus Israeli government cloud computing project by Google and Amazon, what we're talking about today is the video game project Nimbus, and specifically the Complete Edition. Now, I'm not 100% sure exactly where the lines are drawn, but this game seems to have initially released in different Project Nimbus parts, subtitled Code Mirai and Rise Mirai, while the Complete Edition seems to be, as the name suggests, the fully completed version combined together, and I guess in some aspects remastered? There are some potential hiccups on the production side of this whole thing, as different sections of this initially divided game content was created and or ported between PC and PlayStation by entirely different teams. That'd be the Japanese studio Game Tomo, the Thai-based Game Crafter team, and the UK-based publishers over at KISS Publishing. Also, if you need even more Project Nimbus, there was a 2023 sequel called Nimbus Infinity. Before we get too deep into it, hi, I'm Empty. I'm a bit of a mech newbie that's on a personal quest to interact with mecha media as much as possible after discovering that it's totally awesome. This game was actually one of the first mech games I played and intended to review for this channel, but for various reasons that got put off for a couple of years. Thankfully, I finally managed to get this whole project up and running, so now I've got to return to Project Nimbus. I use the YouTube channel to post my thoughts and opinions, often in review format on games within the genre, and meta-commentary stuff as well. If you'd like to keep up with me, using the subscription button or hanging out in the comments section is always greatly appreciated. Thanks. Now back to the game. The plot initially begins in the 2070s, some 40 years after a World War III event has decimated the planet and humanity took to floating cities to survive. The story of this one tended to be a bit hard for me to follow, as every other mission seemed to put your point of view from opposing factions, and those factions would be the CFN, or Coalition of Free Nations, which is part of the remnants of the United States Air Force, along with their private military counterterrorism contract with a group called Mithril that consists of some general cybernetics technology. Typically here, with this faction, you'll pilot the young cyborg Mirai Iwata. In opposition to the United States, their classic enemy, the Red States, United Continental Nations, or UCN, with Spetsnaz, which after World War III nuclear event is the combined effort of mostly Russia and China, but also some other Asian countries as well. Typically, whenever you are playing this side, you are put in the perspective of the genetically engineered Lieutenant Colonel Juliana Alex Adrova. Furthermore, and perhaps my confusion, the plot features a second faction that can be summed up underneath the CFN initialism, and that would be the terrorist cell Children of Fallen Nations. These guys are the remnants of humanity that were unable to escape to the air and are pretty sour about having to live on the destroyed landscape. More than that, there's also the European Independent State Alliance sitting somewhere in the background, hoping to make a bank, being a merchant group for every side of this conflict. Okay, so as said before, the plot bounces back and forth between sides a lot. For the most part, this exists as stereotypical military jargon to get you to shoot each other, right? Hey, the evil Reds are invading our great freedom space, go blast them. Hey, the evil Americans are flying into our great motherlands, go blast them. At a certain point, this does escalate into the characters having personal grudges against each other and becoming traditional arch-enemies, before devolving into a maybe more Evangelion-like existential crisis after these characters start considering how much their hands have been stained with blood. The climax of the story unveils the need for both sides of this conflict to join forces, as the true deep state string-pulling secret evil of everything turns out to be a sentient AI system gone rogue, whose name is Ronald Reagan. And that's one of the more comical things about the narrative here. It's equal parts real-world inspired, as it is Easter eggs to greater Mecha media conglomerate. In the same vein, I haven't personally played any Ace Combat games, but from my understanding, Nimbus has got carryover in that aspect too. I guess there's a bunch of referential dialogue and characters, named things like Mobius 1. While it does not end up being the most concise and well-crafted story overall, there might be some interest in picking apart all the different references, or some joy found in the absurdity of a giant futuristic mecha suit flying in the air next to a modern-day Boeing 747 Presidential Air Force One liner, as a flying aircraft carrier named the USS Obama is bombing genetic cyborg Russian Terminator battle frames in the background over a naval base named Yamato, while mentally controlling psychodrone assault to a conspiratorial alien artificial intelligence named Ronald Reagan. What a mouthful. The main game mode for most folks would probably be the story-based campaign here, but there are a couple others. An endless survival mode, not much to say there, besides maybe it loses a bit of replayability, considering battle frames aren't customizable, and a more open to choice and generally enjoyable Warfront mode. Here in Warfront, you'll pick whether to play as the CFN or UCN, and choose your mission types. There's 6 of these with a few different gameplay objective styles: battle, base defense, base assault, interception, acquisition, and assassination. You get to pick and choose your missions here to earn some cash, which you can spend to upgrade your frames and even buy different models. This opens up options to play the mech suits that work as cannon fodder during the main campaign, as well as play as all the unique battle frames as well. Downside here being that if your preference is to play in first person rather than third person, a lot of these frames don't have that option. Gameplay itself persists mostly of looking at targeting squares, as pretty much all the time everything's too far away and moving too fast to have direct focus. I think this is probably my main gripe. I just felt like I was shooting targeting squares the whole game, shooting them with sometimes way too many different weapon types at my disposal to feel comfortable blasting off everything and playing the reload cooldown waiting game. Okay, so you get pretty standard stuff: machine guns, missiles, railguns, that sort of thing. Some frames do get more specified options like melee weapons or decoys. However, all of your battle frames do get funnels, which are sort of like flares that distract missiles from hitting you. I really seem to struggle to get the timing right for these things to work properly. The main campaign bounces around the character plot described in the story section of this review. There's a few difficulty settings, and each of the 26 missions starts with your choice of battle frame, which of course is limited to the character you gotta play in the mission. A lot of the time, your choice is narrowed down to a singular mech. Most of these missions have a standard set of objectives, defend this thing, blow up that thing, have a high-intensity dogfight with a named enemy character, with all the appropriate radio chatter. I found the fight with Mirai to be the most difficult portion of the game, I think. Things feel formulaic, that is, until the third mission of the third act, called Comatose. Comatose takes a big step away from the action with a walking simulator-type moment of introspection. It's clear to me here that the inspiration for this mental breaking point was Neon Genesis Evangelion, with the red waters, the crosses, the giant white body parts sticking out of things. This was an interesting moment in-game, as it felt totally unexpected, even if the environment reminded me of the movie Constantine. Speaking of the environments, the first initial push into the game felt pretty bland to me. I know the world here is supposed to basically be nuked beyond livability, but you spend all game flying around in the clouds. It could really use some flavor here. in the clouds, especially after how much the store page screenshots showcase things in a way that make the game look like it really pops. There's a mission over the ocean in this initial section with dead skyscrapers poking out of the water, which I thought was really cool initially, but I got lost as whenever you blow up enemies, chunks of them just fall to the ocean floor and bounce around like rubber balls. Once you get into Act 2, the environments start to open up and feel a lot better, though. You'll get sunsets over snowy fields, battles on the rim of space, nighttime sky cities twinkling, and beachside assaults. It starts to be more visually appealing. I should probably speak up about the mech designs, but at the behest of sounding like a bad reviewer, I don't have much to say. They're okay. I wouldn't say they're bad or boring or derivative, but they also aren't really doing anything that feels or looks different or unique enough to make note of. I guess that's kind of this game as a whole. It's just okay, not a lot to say. The sounds are okay, the music is what you'd expect. If you close your eyes while I prompt you with music for a military-based shooter video game that's also an anime, you'd probably not be far off, as the empowering orchestrations feel really on point to just that. There is something distinctly video game quality here, and I'm not sure if I know the right way to put that into words. Same for the English voice acting. It's okay, it's average, it's video game quality. Some characters are kinda stiff, or maybe their accents feel just a little fake and all of that, but it's not horrible. One thing that I absolutely cannot stand, though, is, for lack of a better term, the anime sounds. Characters doing the exaggerated grunts and groans thing is always a trope that bemoans me, and this really took center stage, pretty much ruining the entire comatose stage for me, as the constant ASMR of breathing, grunting, and groaning made me feel like I was being assaulted.
Do you know how much trouble you've caused for other people?
Biggest negative, direct as possible. I personally just didn't really like the gameplay. Come to find out, I guess I don't really like playing games, as before I even knew the influences of Ace Combat going into this thing I wrote in my notes, I feel like I'm just shooting distant squares. I feel like a fighter jet. I wish this was more up close and personal. Combine this with how mediocre or average most of the game feels, and just how incredibly annoying it is that nearly every dogfight had me battling invisible walls that the enemy seems to be able to fly out of, made the whole experience something I'm not too keen on repeating. On top of just generally not liking the game, I also encountered some technical problems. Occasionally, typically after mission completion, this would put my computer hardware into a high-intensity workout. Mission complete screen while my fans are prepping my computer for an orbital launch. Not too sure what that was about, but I wasn't a fan. Sometimes during missions, too, I'd get severe moments of lag, to the point the game was unplayable. Not too sure what that was about either, as this sort of thing seemed, unprompted. Sometimes in games you can tell when it's a certain particle effect, or area of the stage, or laser cannon, or whatnot, but I could not pinpoint what the exact problem was here. On top of my personal issues, I've also poked around a bit and found various reviews pointing out other bugs, as well as dev posts into 2025 working on fixing them. Things like the game refusing to work on certain Intel CPUs, game-breaking bugs that prevent progress starting during the tutorial, various crashes, mouse control issues, and more. It's definitely commendable that this stuff is still being fixed and worked on 8 years after the game released, but also something I feel I must bring to the attention of any prospective buyer of this as a product. All things considered, I just didn't like this one, unfortunately. Maybe if I was a bigger fan of fighter jet games, my opinion would be different, but I can't help but shake the feeling that even then I'd still find it painfully average at best and painfully frustrating at worst. This, combined with the technical problems myself and many others have faced, make this one really hard to recommend, which is a shame because it seems to come from a hardworking dev team, was kickstarted by a passionate audience, and has an extremely fair price point. At some point in the future, I will be looking at its sequel, Nimbus Infinity, in hopes that a clean slate allowed for a stronger end product.